You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
We're here! We did it!
Good evening, boys and girls. Here we are.
Yeah, it's not storming outside, so I don't have to worry about...
But I can't hear you. Your mic isn't on.
Oh, sorry. I said it's not storming outside, so I don't have to worry about dying. It's great.
That's good. Yeah, for those of you who missed last week, we had kind of a hilarious incident in the first 10 minutes of the show where Boat had to run, plug a generator in, and restart the stream. So we should be good now.
Yeah, we're definitely okay today.
It's possible that actually our devs is saying that they can
I just didn't have push to talk running.
They could hear you, but I couldn't. So
yeah, I didn't press push to talk well enough. That's my fault. So hey, Aerith, how's it going?
You know, living large.
Chillin' and billin'. Yeah, so we've got an interesting show today. We have Aerith on board. The boat has labeled him as the leader of the CSM, which is always entertaining. And we're going to be talking a lot about the economic changes that are coming. As usual, whenever we have Aerith on, we're getting a window into the economic metagame. And you may be wondering, what is the changes to the economic metagame? All that's happened is the Abyssal patch. Well, these sites are going to create a lot of disruption in areas that I don't think people are really aware of. So that's going to be what we're going to be talking about today.
Also, for the wondering why we're in black, it's in mourning of the PL failure to conquer Providence before patch day.
Nice. I actually do have a red shirt, of course, going on. Even when I wear black, I truly try to.
I just figured that would be a perfect way to for people asking where's the red.
Good. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. I want to thank everybody for coming here, and Ardo's resubscribed for 20 months in a row. That's awesome.
Oh, Winter. By the way, I give a shout out here too. We had a guy subscribe for 46 months on my show yesterday.
That is badass.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Alrighty.
So are we talking economy now?
Yes, let's talk economy. I'm gonna link the link to the INN article, and you can go ahead and start talking.
Aerith,
there was an original article about, I guess, last weekend, where putting some of our thoughts on paper that there's this kind of coming storm, right? You have this huge amount of supply that's going to hit GETA from asset safety and all that. But now you have that counterbalanced by the level of attrition that we're seeing with these new abyssal sites. And in attrition, when some new feature of PvE is launched, is fairly normal for about a week or so, maybe 2, and then the players figured out some niche fit or whatever the gimmick is, and the attrition rate goes down. It dramatically drops, right? Well, the way these are kind of built and being ran, it feels a lot like CCP wants there to be an attrition rate it's fairly predictable and standard. They want some sort of mineral and asset sink, a way to delete things from the game. No salvage, no looting, just delete it. And if that's the case, if it's even a small percentage, like say 10% or 5%, that's a serious amount of stuff dying on a continual basis, to the point where, since the patch came out, just on Zkill, there's already 2.5 trillion in stuff that's died in these sites. Well, Zkill's probably not getting the vast majority of these people's kills. I say reasonable percent. At least 25% is missing. I would say probably more like 50, because these are the exact kind of people that wouldn't have an API anywhere. But that's a lot of crap. So you got to figure north of 3 trills already died. If we're losing hundreds of billions in stuff, and T2 and faction and T1, just everything on the daily right now, and that continues for another month, it isn't going to matter what comes in from Legacy Null SEC. That's just a level of attrition that would wipe that away.
One comment, Eric, and I have this question for you. One comment someone made last night is, that people that fly T2 ships, Munins, Vagabond, stuff like that, are going to see a huge increase in price because it seems to be that's the most common ship, is ships that don't use cap, that can do big shield tanks. Do you see that happening where like thousands of these things are going to be just vanished from the game?
Essentially, that's what's occurring. You're seeing essentially hundreds, if not thousands, of T2 ships now just disappearing, of faction ships just disappearing. That has shockwaves deep into the LP markets, deep into mission running markets, generating more demand for those kind of players. It's generating more mineral demand for those kind of players. It's generating more T2 demand for us and other Null SEC players. But on a scale no one's ever really seen before, on a sustained manner. Like, even the big wars don't really do this, you know, a couple $100 billion every day. Bang, bang, bang. You know, that's
right.
unusual.
Well, this is actually, so I want to get a baseline here because I'm going to ask the stupid questions. So, I mean, these sites we're seeing 2.5–3 trillion get vaporized since the patch was introduced, which was just a couple days ago. But is this significantly different, and how do we know that this is different from just the existing losses from people losing ratting ships? I mean, people lose ships in missions, people lose ships while ratting, people lose ships just doing PvE all the time. Why is this different over the baseline?
Think of it as an additional level of death, and it's far beyond what you would expect to see in traditional mission running. Traditional mission running is a very low death rate, very low amount of ISK really lost to the economy. They're largely figured out. Incursions, same thing, largely figured out. You don't have this death rate. This is a death rate we don't see decelerating. Like, normally you would see the curve already with new PvE content as it's figured out, especially into the first weekend, but it's not. And so that's unusual. We don't see that death curve, you know, of the NPCs being figured out, and these are blinged out ships. Like, the nature of this content means people are running blinged out shit, or at least as, you know, T2 hacks with, you know, maybe some light faction, things like that. So when these things die, that's a lot of different stuff in the economy going poof, and so kind of everyone benefits.
You got to remember too, Mittens, that the way the sites work is there's a time limit. I think it's 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes to do it, so no one's stopping to salvage. And if their ship blows up, it's disappeared from the game. There's no way to go back and get your wreck. There's no way to go back and get your lost loot.
So it's a total loss.
Yeah, it's like an instance that
gone,
just vanishes,
as opposed to like you blew up, you lost your ratting raven, or whatever.
And you go back to the site, loot it. Yeah, right. That's what happens. You also get potted, so you're having people go in there with nice implants that just get vaporized. So it's like, imagine the site just disappearing from known space. It's gone. Everything inside it's gone. The loot, the ship, the wreck, the pod, everything's gone. It's crazy. One guy mentions in chat he's selling sacrileges at 700 million a pop. That's almost double what you would see normally.
Well, that would be another thing is that the the sites are using a class of ship that, I mean, to be fair, people use Ishtars and VNIs to go ratting, but stereotypically mission running ships have usually been battleships. I mean, it sounds like here.
Well, that's the thing about this that makes it really big. I was talking to Theta yesterday because I knew this would be a topic today. You can't use Ishtars and VNIs because the sites target drones, and you can't just AFK this. You have to, like, rush in there, do as much damage as possible, and each time you enter a site, you get, like, a display that tells you, hey, you're going to lose this type of damage, or you're going to lose this amount of cap. It's like a negative. And so if you go in there with just drones, you're unable to do the site, you're going to lose your ship.
Well, it's the thing driving this is the timer. So basically what CCP is doing is they're forcing these missions to be blitzed. You have to kill the rooms in the 20-minute timer or you're dead, right? So you can't sit here and just tank up and tank however long you want. You have to have as light a tank as you can for trading for DPS so you can blitz these things. And that's a balance that a lot of players are going to lose on, or get slightly wrong, or maybe it fluctuates enough that players are dying. And so if you start seeing people dying 1 out of 10 times on the regular, if you're not a pro, that's a lot of additional demand for the economy.
Yeah, this guy in chat, Era, says usually he sells about 15 sacrileges a day, and he's now selling about 150 a day in Jita. which is
It seems like you can
insane.
use Ishtars and Gias. I mean, people were talking about how
Gilas can because of the
actually-
missiles. But you have to pay attention because sometimes they'll kill your missiles. So you have to get the luck of the draw, right? With Ishtars, again, it's another thing. You're having to use a lot of cap if you're using guns besides your drones. And again, they kill drones. Another thing you're starting to see too. Oh wait, hold on. Asher is saying you use the drones. I don't know. People in Theta were saying drones die, and I've watched streamers complain about losing drones. So
They can die, but Ishtars, Deimos, Sacrilege, Vagabond are like the big four right now. Besides the Gila itself.
okay. Anyway, another thing too is, and Eric, maybe you can comment on this. A lot of people said CCP pushed this as content designed for newbies, as a way for a newer player to jump into a PvE area that maybe they didn't have access to before. But from everything I've seen on Zkill, from all these people telling me the ships and showing their fits, no newbies spending $1 billion ISK on a Vagabond to go do these sites. So where's the newbies involved in this? How is it possible for newbies to be?
Well, they can run the level 1s and the level 2 filaments, and they can run that in probably a T1 cruiser. I mean, they probably got to be good, but I'm doable. They can just stay to the lower end of that economy.
Oh, okay. And also, another thing that was mentioned yesterday is that the way that the loot's distributed makes it so more people doing it is better. Is that what you're hearing? Like, as far as making money off this stuff?
I think that would be a stretch, I guess. But you know, I think it's way too early to be referencing like kind of the knock-on effects of like the blue loots or any of the loot.
Right.
Mutagens right now are what everyone wants in the battleships, really, because the battleships are actually pretty good. I know we're looking at the battleships. I think battleships are going to be something that is going to be a significant demand for the loot. But right now, it's all about the mutagens. That's all anyone cares about. So we got to see where that meta goes. I suspect it goes somewhere where lower tier mutagens are like with T2, and then all like the high-end mutagens would be Officer and Dead Space, because it seems like the best bang for your buck is going to be mutagening like T2 stuff probably.
Now, here's a question, which is sort of a broader thing, and I guess we're going to know this inside of a few weeks if people taper off from doing these. I remember when incursions came in, they were the new hotness, and everybody, including myself, tried them out. And then after a bit, they became solved and became boring. Are these sites, and have you guys heard any reports that people are actually, and I'm going to use the F word here, so everybody brace themselves, are people having fun in the PvE content?
I think, yeah. I think all the feedback I'm seeing, people are enjoying it. I think the only spurg you see is when people die a lot. I think some perceive them as too hard or whatever, and so those people are probably not happy, but everyone else seems to be enjoying it.
Why? And so like this is an enduring mystery, and I'm wondering if like from a design perspective, if it's the artificial time limit that adds pressure that makes it more interesting, because you know you play a mission in EVE Online and it is just skull-fuckingly boring, basically. But these are still sort of using a mission-based structure, but there's this artificial time limit of like you gotta do it, and that so it sounds like it's more of an intense flow state-inducing experience. Like, what's your take on what makes these fun compared to everything else?
It's that because you can't really just sit there and over-tank them as your failsafe, right? You can't bling it out and over-tank, or bling it out and run out the timer, or tank to downtime, or some gimmick fit, or something like that. You're going to solve this thing. That means you have to apply damage to those enemies, or you're going to die. And in some of these enemies, it's kind of a race to get to them before you die. So it favors blitz, it favors aggression, which means it favors risk-taking. And if you're not willing to take the risk in these, you die. So that's not very fun for some people that are kind of risk-averse and just want to spend a lot of ISK to have some blinged-out officer tank or something. You're not going to do that here. You have to actually use your brain and be aggressive. And so I think that's a lot of fun for some. And I think PvPers may have fun with this type of PvE, but it's substantially different than missions. It's so different than missions that I wonder if the mission runners will be the type that actually runs these long term.
That's interesting. The idea that they might have created a PvE content experience that appeals to PvPers as opposed to people who are looking for, missions. I just could never do them for any length of time because there's no risk, there's no challenge, it's the same shit, and once you've solved it, you're just like going through the motion. But it sounds like that's impossible here, which is interesting because it would also be a part of the, with missions, people can bot missions. It sounds like this is the kind of thing that will never be able to be automated in any reliable way.
There is no way. I can't see a bot being written for this anytime soon. I don't think inside of 2 years. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't see how you could bot it. It just, everything changes so dynamically that it makes it so it puts a lot of things. But the reason I brought up the loot thing is a couple guys from Data were discussing about instead of CCP making it so you get good loot at the very top tier, so tier 5 is all the best loot 100% of the time, they made it so you get a percentage chance to get good loot in tier 1 and 2, and then a little higher percent chance to get good loot in tier 3 and 4. And they were saying that just based on the number of people doing it in the Imperium, good loot's going to drop, even in the lower sites. So just by doing vast quantities. Whereas like incursions, if you don't go do the mothership, you're not going to get the mothership BPC, and you're not going to get good money off that. So that's why I thought that would be an interesting situation with this. But I don't know. I don't do PvP.
Oh, yeah. So. There's no way. I believe the vast majority of the mutagen economy or the abyssal economy is going to come from like the tier, like the level 3 type filament or something, like kind of the middle of the road. There's no way like you're going to see tons and tons of the max things. Like that's just not cost effective. Like the chance of dying goes way up. I think we're going to see people lazy moding, half AFKing the lower tiers pretty soon, but not the higher tiers.
That makes sense. One of the things that Xenodragon was saying a couple minutes ago in chat that I thought was savvy is that because in this mechanic you're actually getting loot boxes at every room that you do, then there's like a gambler's inspiration to go on. Have you found that you really have time to like look at the loot that you get between rooms, or is it just like a mat? I haven't done one of these things yet, so.
I think that would depend on, I guess, the person. I mean, you could definitely have time to sneak a look at your cargo. That wouldn't be very hard. But generally, I think you're going to be very focused on exactly how you're piloting your ship.
At what level do you think that, like, from what you guys have seen so far, at what level is it like shit is real? You can jump in and do like a level 1 and 2. At which point is it that you expect to see serious attrition of ships?
Level 3. That's about where I would expect to start seeing like the T1s. No way. Like if you're not in a hack, you're probably fucked. That kind of thing. Yeah, it'd be level 3.
Interesting.
So how do you find one of these? Again, I haven't done one of these yet. Are these just anomalies that are floating in space and you can just find them like anything else, or how do you get to them?
You have to go basically do a data site or buy it off the market. But your goal is to get like the entry level filament, and then you go to wherever you want to run it in space. Like pick your quiet system or maybe your capital, whatever. I recommend 1DQ. Launch your filament, go into your level 1, clear it, get another filament. And keep going up the ladder, or just sell them, or whatever.
So they're like mission tokens that you can spend anywhere, and then you get.
They're rift keys. They're Diablo rift keys. That's all they are.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, are the rift keys, like, are we seeing a secondary market in these in Geo? Like, how much are people selling them for?
So they're still expensive right now. Like, we have seen, to give you an example how absurd some of the stuff was, you would see stuff coming out at 4 billion for like a battleship. One of the battleships already. Well, clearly that's probably not going to be the price point, and I would expect it to drop to like 1 billion later, in the mutagens to be probably tens of millions for quite some time, or hundreds of millions, and then the filaments were going to be pretty damn cheap. Like I think filaments are going to be in the millions.
Yeah.
So
the low end ones anyway.
So let me just sort of go through the life cycle of this. People find the filaments in data sites to begin the process, and then you get more of them as you run the abyssal.
Right. So once you've got the first one, you can kind of go do your little chain, and you're likely to get one or more filaments as you complete each level.
Now, when you're in one of these rifts, if you finish a room, is there any point that you can duck out and go like, okay, well, I've gotten the first room, or is it you got to clear the whole thing or you're fucked?
You got to clear the whole thing, or you're fucked.
Gotcha.
That's the thing. Is you're racing a timer and there's no way out. The only way out is victory
the only way out's forward. That's why it's so bad, is because you're racing against a clock to kill a mob. That if somehow For example, I watched a guy on CCP stream doing it the other night, and he lost all his drones, so he lost that little bit of DPS he needed to kill the final mob, and then he died. He just died.
This does actually sound unironically kind of badass. What's the fastest? And I'm just going to keep asking stupid questions because I'll be the designated guy who hasn't done one of these things yet. What's the fastest that you like? I'm kind of curious how much wiggle room CCP has built into the design. Like, if you're doing like a level 1 or a level 2 and you're good at it, what's the fastest that you can expect to clear one of these suckers?
Oh, a few, like probably less than 6 or 7 minutes, I would guess. But the higher level ones, no. I mean, you see lots of stories of people coming out with just seconds to spare, or dying as the animation they're trying to click it, and they run one last second.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's all about where you are on that risk reward seesaw. Do you go balls out and you have tons of DPS and you just try to burn things down with a lot of speed like an MWD? Or do you try to be tankier? And that trade-off determines what your real risk is. If you're a tankier guy, you're running the risk of the timer. If you're a DPS guy, you're afraid the NPCs are actually just going to kill you.
This sort of ties into something. Like, the element of pressure seems really unique, and maybe it shouldn't seem unique. I was watching Tropic Thunder again last night, and Tom Cruise does this amazing Les Grossman character, and I was trying to figure out where that character came from, so I watched an interview with Tom Cruise, and he was talking about not Scientology stuff for once. He was talking about how he originally read the script for Tropic Thunder, which I think came from Ben Stiller, and it was basically like, there's not enough pressure on these characters. They're in the jungle, they're actors, something is like that. They need something putting pressure on them from above to actually make the narrative work. And that has always been, I guess, the problem with CCP's PvE content, is there's never really any pressure. Like, once you've figured it out, it's no big deal. So in this case, you're running these missions, even if you've got the best setup or whatever, the fact that there is randomness and that there's pressure from the time limit, and the fact that you can lose everything even if you're clearing a certain room, you have to both beat the mobs and the clock. It's revolutionary. How are people getting hunted down and killed on this? That's a question. Is like, so you pop a filament wherever you want. How are people getting ganked going in or going out? You don't.
That's the thing is, I mean, you can get ganked as you come out and they catch you on the gate, but once you're in the site, it's kind of like an instance. And people were saying that you can probe out the exit and just sit there. Someone in my fleet brought probes the other day. And you just sit and wait. Yeah, so people are saying in chat, you just sit and wait. But that's the
Is the entry the same as the exit? You pop the filament and then you have to find the entrance, or
you pop the filament, go to the entrance, go in, and then if you probe out the entrance, you literally just sit there and wait.
So what you do is you find one of these things and you look for a yellow one, because the yellow ones are like tier 3 through 5 or whatever. You sit there because that guy's got to come out in 20 minutes or he's dead. And you just wait for him to pop out. You've got to kind of get a tackle on him because there's like kind of a little area he can be in. But he's dead if you're waiting for him, most likely. But there's a couple ways where he can escape. Like, you could just use another filament real quick. And now there's that posh trick I saw Satoni or somebody posted. So there's a couple tricks.
Someone just said in chat that you don't even have to probe it. You can literally just descan. Wow, that's crazy, because it gives you a suspect timer if you use on level 4 and 5. Wow, that is just ridiculous.
So the player always comes out. So either they're going to die because they didn't finish the mission in 20 minutes. From a certain a PvP perspective, it's fascinating because it means that you'll never have to wait for more than 20 minutes for content, right? If you find one of these things and you're hunting mission runners, you can just sit there, and at some point less than 20 minutes, they're going to pop out, or the site will presumably despawn. Like, if the person inside of the site dies, does the exit gate immediately despawn?
That I don't know.
No,
I don't think
that's a question for folks in chat. Let's see if they know. But yeah, curious.
Think about this from a PvP perspective. It's like, this poor bastard just slogged through a hard site. Like, you only go for the yellows, right? The harder sites. So this guy's in a hard site. He's gonna have a blinged out ship, and he just finally beats it. He's so proud of himself. Then he's like, "Oh hell no!" There's some guy waiting for him on the way out. Like, it's like the final boss, and when he thinks he's done.
Yeah.
That is like really one of the things that Jacob Grimes pointed out in chat that I thought was really good. Is it's ice fishing. You're basically the PvPers are like a polar bear above a seal's breathing hole.
That's
the seal
amazing.
pops up, and then that's just a brilliant analogy right there.
Yeah, I really do like that, because that's exactly what I would expect. Wow, okay, so we're ice fishing. I kind of want to go hunting these things, because it'd be kind of hilarious. I don't know. The more I look at it, the more I see how comical it can be.
Well, I mean, if you know that you're going after, like, so it's cruiser hulls, right? So you know you're going to be going after certain types of blinged out abyssal ship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess part of the challenge is to make sure that you have something that can tackle them when they come out. But, you know, if you can bring some sort of specially designed go fuck yourself ship that exists to counter
go
those.
fuck yourself shit.
Basically, you bring it Dominics and they're fucked.
Yeah, like a nuding Dominics. Just sit there like one of the old school dummies.
Neil Gorns, Jacob Grimes is saying, I guess Jacob has been hunting these guys, bringing balls and DPS battleships. So
Yeah.
just like they come out and you sit on them. And doing it in Jita might be interesting if people can actually run the level 4s that give them suspect timers inside of Jita.
It's just a disgusting mechanic. I don't know. It's so new. I mean, we had this experience with again, going back to a different game. Path of Exile does this, where you have this ability to do exactly what is happening in this is eval things. I'm really interested in the ships, because I've seen people theory crafting that you can take, let's say 10 of the cruisers, and with that constant DPS, just stick it on one Logi. Now they're constantly having to rep one Logi who's getting hit with like 20,000 DPS. And then you have the rest of your fleet shoot the battleships. And the way Goons multi-box, you can see one guy doing 10 of these cruisers, no big deal, you know? And you don't have to constantly reload, you don't have to constantly refire, it's just one targeted beam. Once it starts firing, you forget. You go to the next character. Like, it's really amazing for multi-boxing.
Speaking of multi-boxing, I mean, I'm wondering about people running these sites relatively safely. Like, there's, from what I understand, there'd be nothing stopping you parking a Cove Ops or just anything on the entrance to your Abyssal site, like when you're running it on your main character, so you could see and scout whether you're about to get ganked when you pop up.
Right, but you're going to get ganked anyway if you don't get out of there, because the timer will run out.
Right, no, I understand that, but like you can scout your own exit, and if you're in defended space, I'm thinking about like delve.
Oh, like getting help?
So you'd be like,
yeah,
hey
yeah.
guys, like I'm running the site, and there's a whole bunch of random PL guys on the outside. Please come kill them with free kills. So
Oh,
like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
actually
that's-
have like a
that's
layer
fine.
of defense gameplay.
But what's amazing about it is that it's like dice fishing. You have to come up for air eventually. You're gonna have to leave the site, and if you're in low sec or high sec or even enemy space because our enemies are incompetent, that's going to happen. You're just gonna get fished.
Well, what I want to see is the meta to where it's like you go to the enemy stager and you run to all the high-end filament sites as quick as you can with your fleet, and you camp like all their little PvEers as they come out in that 20 minutes before they can respond. And they just lose a whole bunch of guys and you leave.
Oh man.
As Steelhorse says, of course, for delve, you could actually just fit a Sino on your cruiser if it's tough enough to survive.
Good point. Yeah, like fit a sign on your Gila. Boom, done.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because the interesting thing about this is, again, like people are going to have to go through and lose these things over, and like the process of learning, of course, will require loss, unlike with incursion. I mean, well, actually, that's not true. When incursions first came out, people lost a lot of ships, but these are a hell of a lot more deadly, so it's harder to, it's more expensive to go through the R&D process to optimize what ships work the best. So yeah, that's interesting.
It's going to be an interesting thing to see. I'm excited for the prospects of it, right? Like, there's just so many different opportunities that this game mechanic affords. I don't know.
Can you pop it anywhere? Like, you pop it and then it spawns somewhere in the system? Or can you, like, actually pop the filament and start your end gate, like, 1,000 kilometers off the Theta Star?
Yes, you completely control where it appears, basically. I mean...
So you can literally, can you do it within range of a citadel? Like, say I'm going to spawn this entranceway inside the range of the Keep Star?
No, you have to be like 100k off.
1,000 kilometers from any structure.
Okay, but
there
you can
are
basically
ways around it, evidently.
Right, but what's
Right.
great about that is Mittens brings up a good point. Hey, newbies, pop that thing right in front of the Keepstar in 1DQ1. Someone's not going to camp in front of that thing.
Yeah, like if the that is actually that's a really interesting point for everybody who is in nullsec and wanting to use these as an economic advantage, is that like if you're able to do these within killing range of a staging system's Keepstar, then every nullsec alliance that has a significant presence would be able to do these safely. I mean, not safely from a perspective of not losing the site itself, but you wouldn't have to worry about polar bears.
Someone just said there's currently 20 outside the Keepstar as we speak.
That is excellent. And part of the reason why I'm asking these dumb questions is that whenever we have an expert like Aerith on the show, I get to play dumb. I actually am dumb when it comes to this. I have no idea what I'm talking about, which is why I'm asking these things. But we want to educate people as to what the opportunities are. So if you're a member of the Imperium and it's like, hey, you can pop these things wherever you want, well, just do it right on the station. Somebody is saying that you can actually do these on a POS. You can start them inside of a POS.
Yeah, so the trick that what's his name was doing a drop a small faction POS right on top of your beacon, online the POS. Since you already started the site before the beacon was before the structure was there, you can then anchor it on top of your own beacon after the fact. And a small
so that's interesting.
POS
So nobody can get in there at all.
Right.
So that gives you total safety, but if you're doing if your exit point is within visual and warp range of a it's on the same grid as a staging Keepstar, that means that nullsec alliances that have their shit together can do these pretty
so
much.
Someone just linked the all the different like pop-ups outside the Keepstar in 1DQ1. That's pretty funny. Also, Aerith, Zkill has the stats at the moment. Now they're not 100% verified, but Zkill is able to pull NPC stats. So far, there have been 6,000 ships killed. No, 5,600, sorry. 1.5 trillion ISK. And that's just what's reported. That's not including, like, if the ship was a ship that costs 1 ISK because it's a free ship otherwise. And so far, 2,600 capsules, 2,235 ships dead.
Yeah. If you actually pull up the individual regions, it's actually 2.5 already.
Oh,
Xenodragon had just a really interesting point, which is, so talk about nullsec interdiction. If everybody in nullsec starts doing these in a protected way off of their staging areas, and then you have a group come in and take temporary control. I mean, of course, obviously, you can't do that on a Keepstar. You can't like sit on the grid, but you can bring a big enough fleet by to force the bad guys to form up, and then you can just do polar bear seal clubbing.
Seal.
Yeah, that's what I was earlier is like no matter what happens, you can rush into that system and get all the first guys that were caught in holes when you came in, because you know how it is. It takes about 20 minutes to get a response fleet. That whole first wave of guys are fucked.
Oh yeah, they're all dead. They're so dead.
That's
hilarious. I don't know.
hilarious.
It's been exciting to see. I'm excited for the frigate. I already trained up the skill, and I've got the gun, and I'm gonna try it. Seal clubbing fleet. Yeah, that would be amazing.
I mean, for groups like Wellswad or anything like that, hey, like, 1DQ1 would be relatively safe because 1DQ1 just has a bunch of bored Titans sitting on it all the time.
And the thing is,
but, like,
hold on, this gets even better. We could do like we did the Horde. Remember we used to use those bomber fleets in Horde space? You just do bomber fleets with this, because you can sit off
you do
it
an
cloaked.
oppression fleet.
Yeah, an oppression fleet. You sit there with 20 cloaked bombers. They're going to alpha a T2 cruiser that comes out of this thing. You can shoot void bombs at it.
Oh my god, they can't stop it because it's a bunch of fucking stealth bombers.
And they're cloaked! Oh god, they're gonna... They won't know what site you're sitting outside of. They won't know who to stop.
Oh my god.
You just
Wow.
alpha the ship with the impression and then fucking warp out. That's it.
Wow.
That's all you gotta do.
Well, boat. That's up your alley right there.
I just want to point out that this WeDot guy lost one of these brand new Damovics, which I believe is the cruiser, and this fit is so fucking bad. What the fuck? Someone just like the kill in chat, and I'm just crying. So this cruiser, to get the skills and the ship, to get everything he needs, he probably spent 3 or 4 billion ISK. And then he fits it with a best named afterburner and a T1 damage mod. I just fucking WeDot. Jesus Christ. Oh, it's the frigate. Well, even worse. Still, that's still goddamn, you're an idiot. Thank you for that. That makes me happy. But yeah, oppression fleets. 20 or 30, Covops. And even if you don't want to spook them, like say there's only one guy running one site in there, you just sit there with the Covops ready to drop the Sino. Covops Sino doesn't appear on the map, and boom, you're in local. I don't know. This is gonna be fun. I'm excited for this.
Steel clubbing fleet. Yeah, we'll have to monitor what the competition is up to, and see whether other entities start doing these off of their staging systems. But
if they realize how safe it
really
is.
Interesting PvP. Yeah, like hey, like 20 guys come in cloaked, like you don't actually know where they are. You don't know which site they're on top of. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Wormholer's gonna have a field day.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because if wormholers come in with anything with cloak ships,
wormholers all have a field day of running these. Could you run these in wormhole space? Because imagine finding some dead end wormhole system that no one ever goes to, and you just pop them in there. You'll never see anybody.
Every wormhole system's a dead end, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, not everyone. Some have like statics that you could just pop in and out of.
Like they literally don't have gates. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, I get that, Aerith. Thank you. We gotta go out to our next topic. We spent a good 40 minutes on this, and our next topic is part of our new Null SEC Power Hour. All right, so in our Null SEC Power Hour, we talk about Providence. And the first thing we want to bring up is Test lost a Ragnarok. Apparently, PL laid in a very, very well elaborate trap. And so, PL and HTP took really good advantage of a dumb Titan this week. And apparently this Ragnarok was just shooting the Fortizar. And just... I don't know what they were doing as Solo Ragnarok shooting a Fortizar thinks he's going to do. But he gets pointed by the Fortizar. PL and HTP log in a shitload of Dictors. They bubble him. They drop a shitload of Dreads. But what's great is that PL bubbled the undock.
It was honorable third party, not PL.
Well, it's I was told PL, and I saw a bunch of PL on the kill bell. Doesn't matter. The point is he gets baited out with a Dread. He doomsdays the Dread, so he can't sign out immediately. He gets tackled. PL then, or honorable third party, and then bubble the undock of Test is staging, so Test can't jump their facts out to get to this guy. So they have no way of getting facts to him, and he's a Ragnarok, so he just melts. But while they did trade the suicidal Ragnarok for this, we didn't talk about this last week, but Providence has been pacified. There is not a single PL station to be captured. No iHub, nothing. PL blitzed got blitzed in a week. Like, that shit got wiped out. For those of you that haven't been keeping up, go over and look at Dotland on Providence. You can see that PL's campaign to own all those stations is moot.
Yeah, that's sort of the biggest theme of the last couple of months in EVE has been this idea that PL was going to come in and swoop in and take all the Providence stations, and they tried. And then there was all of the drama that people have seen break out over the last couple of weeks, much of which was laid at Headliner's feet, the PL campaign commander. PL had to withdraw to Asa. Test and the Legacy Coalition went on a massive purge and blew up like 25 plus Fortizars of PLs throughout Providence. And then now we're at the moment of truth here today. Today is the day where the very last station timers can happen. Any station that is still in Freeport after today will be transferred to its original owner before the freeporting when June 5th hits. So after all of this sturm and drang about how PL and NC Dot are going to take stations in Providence or in Aquarius, respectively, it's amounted to approximately fuck all, which is really something.
Fuck all is a great way to word this, because that's exactly what happened with PL and NC. NC has been telling its members for a month now that they're going to take all these stations and iHubs and really cripple Quarius because the entire Imperium's PvP force is stuck up north. And Imperium's been lying to its members that it's only Citizen Squads. In reality, it's all of their PvP players. It's all of their important FCs. It's everyone that's important. So that's what they've been telling people. So I don't understand how that's a thing, but we had a couple of NCPL guys come on and say, yeah, you guys can't defend this. There's no way. All your PvPers are gone. So, yeah, we see how that worked out really well for them.
Well, I just don't even know where to start on this one. I mean, the idea behind NCDOT's Gehi deployment was that they were, in theory, going to try to force us to pull our SIGs and squads back from messing with Guardians of the Galaxy. That failed. I think there is still one station at issue, and we have a strat up for that today. So who knows?
Yeah,
maybe NCDOT is going to.
They might get one, yeah.
Well,
here's the interesting thing: okay. So Corgius Gods in NC. He used to be in Goons. He's a regular on our shows. He likes our shows. He comes and hangs out. He's a nice guy. To correct that, it wasn't NCDOT telling the members this. It's Geo TG leadership telling Geo TG this is what NCDOT is saying. The NCDOT is going to crush Quarius, and they're going to pull the goons out of the north because all their PvPers are up north. So let me clarify that. It's Geo TG. Well, but we all know that they constantly lie, so there's not much we can correct.
I mean, NCDOT also, NCDOT might not have lied to their members about saying that everybody that we had was up north, but NCDOT's explicit objective was to take Quarius stations, to not only take them, but if they couldn't take them, their fail-safe excuse was that they would be able to pull our SIGs and squads out of the northwest. And they failed on both of those counts. So they didn't fail as spectacularly as PL did. Like, they didn't have to have a humiliating retreat back to Asa like PL did.
So since this is a show of enlightenment, as we figured we could use oppression fleets to kill people doing these sites, someone in chat, Jackie Eve, points out we should let them have at least one station so we can get the first faction Fortizar kill in the game.
That's an interesting idea. We have also, I forgot, guys, it's time for the Cool Kids Club. We're going to go ahead and put the channel into subscribers only mode. So this is the thing that we do. If you have questions and answers, since it is kind of a PvE oriented show this time, we'll try to take Q&As from subscribers.
Yeah, I want to point out, a lot of people are asking, okay, what's the point of these faction Fortizars? Why have them? Maybe Aerith can comment because he knows a lot about money, but I'm told, Aerith, that these things are worth quite a bit of penny because they come with the rigs. They come with good bonuses, and the valuation is about 20 to 30 bill. Is that about right?
That's probably close. The problem with them is, as soon as you unanchor them, most of them aren't very good anymore, or just actually downright suck. There's one or two that are actually still pretty good, but most people are going to want to leave them where they're at if you want any sort of value out of them. Otherwise, you're better off getting the structure with a T2 rig on it, like an EC or whatever, and not these structures. But
okay,
why is that? Because they come with rigs, and if you try to move them, you have to destroy the rigs.
Yeah, and their base stats are okay, but they're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of set. So they're kind of cool for like a guy that's a little bit of a narcissist that wants to have his own little laboratory in 1DQ, like myself or something. We'll probably have like a Moreau. But if using them for true production or to be best in class in one thing, that's not what they're for. But they make a great personal base.
Yeah, and let me ask you this, because we're seeing this as a thing that's going to happen. So let's just say we'll use Tino for example. Tino does not have any NPC space. It has these faction Fortizars come June 5th. What happens if all those faction Fortizars are gone? Does that space go dead if nobody has citadels there? Like, say somebody comes through and purges it clean of all citadels. What happens to that space? Because it's in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, how do people live there in the future?
Well, CCP is an homage to the past, is locking in, if you will, some of the legacy bonuses. So, like, the system-wide bonuses are probably one of the most valuable. Well, it's not probably. They are the most valuable thing you can have in a Null SEC, from an Amar, or from an Inventar, or an Outpost, or whatever. So those bonuses will be locked into the system, even if you go and blow those structures up. So they're always going to have a little bit of topography in Null, which is good, because you don't want to see all of history just blown away.
Right.
So those systems are going to remain important for the rest of EVE's lifetime.
That's interesting. I'm just excited. I can't wait to blow any of these up.
You're definitely costing somebody a lot of ISK. I mean, but is it like trillions and people are making it have to be like, I guess this is a one-time injection of trillions of ISK of wealth, I suppose.
For the people who are active, that's the thing, yeah. Like there's a lot of people who are inactive, and there's this big database move, but if those people are old players that are not actually engaged in the game, it's not really an injection. That is the thing. That was what I was about to bring up. It's not the injection stuff, but one of the things that I think everybody who lived through the boot.ini days of CCP, this is and I am not in IT, I am not a developer, I am not a sysadmin, but even from out here, holy crap, this is like a database migration from hell. I am unironically kind of worried, and I'm pretty sure CCP is also, well, I know they're unironically worried that this is the kind of downtime that it could be several days before the game is up and functional.
And that's the scary thing. Here's my scary thing, is that if they don't snapshot EVE where it's at before they press the button to swap all these over, if they press the button to swap all these over and all these stations vaporize everything that's inside them instantly, because remember, they're putting asset safety on all these citadels. So if you have, let's say you had all your old shit in Declan, June 5th, you press a button, all that shit's an Empire. Boom, done. So what happens if in the process of turning asset safety on to all these things, vaporized, all your shit's gone? Like, that's a big deal.
Well, I think CCP is going to have backups. Like, there's, well, I mean, I would hope so. You would think,
someone's saying a big ass
assumption that they would have backups, because why would they do this without having backups? But CCP has done dumb things before. But even if they do have the backups, right? If there is something that is munged in the process, if it just takes days, I mean, we'll just have to see. But this really is a Herculean task for them.
I will say this, and maybe Aerith will enjoy this, is what's going to happen. This is a two-part thing. First of all, set your date, 25th of June. Certain low sec systems you want to camp, because that's when all the asset safety from the day it comes out, let's just say that they do get this patch up pretty quick, and you're able to press the button June 5th, it takes 20 days. So on June 25th onwards, everything hits a station. So like all of Declan will teleport to one NPC station in low sec, right? All of Tino, all of Branch, they'll go to one system. So watch for that system, because everybody's shit is going to appear there, right? And this is going to be tens of years, maybe even up to 15 years of stuff, all migrating from 0.0 straight to low sec. Okay, someone says like 3 systems, but still, it's a lot of stuff moving there. But what's that going to do to the market, Aerith, in a month or two when this shit finally gets to Jita and starts dumping on the market in Jita? Like in my case, I've got 100 billion ISK in Declan that's just going to disappear right into Jita. I'm going to dump it, forget about it, done. What happens to the game then?
Well, a large part depends on what comes in. Like, some will be ships. Like, we think there's a lot of ships out there in people's hangars that they haven't gotten. There's probably a lot of low-end crap like Straught and Ozone and whatever. There's probably some Moon Goo. We expect some Technetium at least, and I'm not really expecting much R64s, maybe some Thulium. But there will be a lot of R8s out there. There's a lot of things that Null SEC it wasn't really profitable to send out. R4s, R8s. I think most of the R16s were gathered up, and we might see some of those come. Modules, like old Doctrine hangars, like T3s would be a popular one you'd see come in. Capital ships, people's old dreads or carriers they've left sprinkled around Null SEC. So it's just going to be a huge garage sale for all of EVE, and I suspect a lot's going to come, but I'm not even attempting to predict how much at this point.
I'm curious to see how much like drone compounds, drone poop comes out of the drone regions from this.
How much of this, and again, not so much what is going to come, but how does it affect the game? Does it drop the prices dramatically on a lot of stuff, or do you see it just kind of just being lost in the fluff of Jita?
Well, it depends on the market, so it's a little of both. Long term, it's not going to matter that much. especially in a lot of the more active markets like T2 ships and goo. But short term, it can be very price depressive for like 90 days.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be awesome for me. Like, getting stuff, like you said, a big garage sale. I'm going to go get a couple of dreads on the cheap that just teleported from the ascend of Paragon's Soul to Low Sec. I'm going to go buy me a couple of Phoenixes, now I'm going to take them back home. That's where I see this being a cool thing.
It really is going to be like the people's stuff that it's going to actually make it to Jita on day one are going to be things that were like active players, because you have to be an active player to be around and engage in the game today in order to hit asset safety. So active players, it's probably going to be stuff that people that was basically not worth evacing, right? Most organized alliances and players are able to get the high value shit out unless they're inactive at the time. Like you could actually have a ton of your shit there because you stopped playing the game and your region got rolled, and you've just had a full player's worth of stuff in a given regional area. So yeah, it's either going to be just like crap or space Ferraris. I'm not sure.
I know. I'm kind of hoping, and here's the thing that frustrates me, is I really wish they had done this with the NPC 00 too. Since asset safety is a thing, it's not like returning players are going to come back and all their shit's going to be gone, right? They solved that problem with asset safety. So why not do NPC stations? This was a talking point on this show right before the patch day came out. I think we had one of the CCP guys that handled, or who was it? CCP. It wasn't Fozzie. It was the wasn't Guard. Who was it that came on the show from, like, he was Scottish?
Falcon.
Falcon. That's it. CCP Falcon said that they would never really do NPC stations like they're about to do all of 00 because it detracts people from coming back to the game and all their stuff being gone. But with asset safety, you don't need that anymore. And I think that'd be a good time to turn all those NPC stations into citadels.
I'm a big advocate for NPC space in general. When I was on the CSM, one of my before I recognized like what CCP had the capability of doing, maybe now they've increased their capability. I'm done with my NDA now, so I can just say whatever the hell happened 5 years ago. But back in the day, CCP didn't really have the ability to alter the structure of the game. Like, they couldn't really easily make new systems. They later had the ability to add regions. You saw stuff like Black Rise and the faction warfare territory get bolted on. But when it comes to NPC stations, I think that my belief is that every single nullsec region should have a constellation that has NPC stations in it. And I that NPC actually brings a lot to the game because it allows people to harass those regions. So, Delve always has action.
Oh, that's a good point.
So like, think about it. Like, if you compare content for both hunters and the hunted in Delve versus Amist or Tenal, right? Those regions where it's all conquerable and there's no NPC, it's just a pain in the ass to get. Or the drone regions are actually.
The drones are a big deal. Apple Pear just messaged me and said it wish the drones had more, so you could do stuff like drones. That's
exactly.
That's something I agree. That's the thing. I think it should be all or nothing, right? If you're not going to have every system have 00, then none of them should, right? Because it ends up being a situation where, while on one hand it does drive content, it makes it really easy. Like, for example, Delve's the biggest big one here, because from NPC Space, a Dread can hit almost every system in Delve. Whereas I cannot park a Dread in a station in the middle of the drones, or Amist, or Tenal, and hit every system. Because there's nowhere to park it safely. Without logging off in space. So so someone says Newcastle. Oh, sorry. Oh, God. That would get me in trouble. But anyway, that's where I think it needs to be. Because the drones, K-Color pointed this out one time, there's no way to effectively hit rental income in the drones because it's 10 sinos. You have to go up in there and live in there. The reason that Scale Yourself and them did so well is XX was just unable to kill their Fortizars. So they were able to plant Fortizars, they were able to deploy everything they owned, and XX themselves couldn't handle it, right? They couldn't stop it. But that's a very big exception. Scale Yourself doesn't have space anywhere else in the game. Hard Knocks came out of wormhole space. They don't have space in 00. So it's not like they had to uproot themselves to do what they did.
If Delve didn't have NPC space, it'd be basically just like Almas. Right? Like it would be a completely protected region. Period basis is kind of the same way. It's just a huge pain in the ass to get to.
Now,
and it's just boring.
Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember back in the day that getting the NPC 00 in Delve was a thing that Mole wanted, so that they could farm Blood Raiders, so they could bring Blood Raiders in. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I remember a long time ago someone educated me on that when I was a newbie. That's why that 00.
I wasn't around for the event that happened, but
Right.
basically what happened was there was like a role-playing event. Back in the day, this is sort of like the corruption of Band of Brothers. The people who, like the person who was in charge of what used to be called the Aurora system. The Aurora system was like a role-playing event, system where CCP would have players have the ability to have like these GM characters that could then like spawn Blood Raiders to fight players. So
Right.
Band of Brothers would have their buddies. Im Hoshi was the leader of the Aurora program, and he was a member of Evolution. And they set up this whole role-playing event chain where they created Blood Raider space after having Blood Raiders invade and attack with
that's what it
all
was.
this
Okay.
fun stuff. And of course, all of those ships were full of loot. And it was basically just one big circle jerk. But now it's our circle jerk because we have Delve and they don't.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, final thing, last little bit before we go here. The second only Vanquisher to die in the game has died. It died on a gate between a regional system, HD and MTO2. For those that don't know, the guy that lost this Vanquisher, this alliance is actually pretty competent at PvP. For example, I don't know if it was this guy himself or another pilot flying an Erebus. He sat on a Fortizar and took on like 100 dudes, wiped them all out, losing only a Nyx, and then moonwalked his Erebus out with no facts. I mean, the guy's pretty competent at PvP. He just happened to get caught. So Redguard Inc. got caught. He got caught by some Serbian squad guys in Here Be Dragons, and they blew him up. So this is a Vanquisher. Vanquishers are faction titans. They're hard to kill because they have a lot of hit points. So there's a video and a link for that. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And we're out of time.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
thank
it.
you guys very much for coming, and we will turn off subscribers mode in a moment so people can actually talk once the show's over. I appreciate everybody subbing and resubbing. Thank you very much for throwing money at the screen. And we will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And thank you again to our guest, Aerith, for explaining the coming T2 disruption and hilarity of the Abyssal market.
Yep. See you guys.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.